And we're back. All right, y'all. I'm going to jump right into inking. Those of you who are first comers, this is the first episode for you. This is what we're working with right now. Conan the Barbarian, the movie special. This is based on, or rather, it could be the other way around, the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger where he plays Conan. It's a pretty good movie. It's fun to watch. I highly encourage you guys to check that out. But aside from the movie itself, beautiful work done by John Buscema. If you guys don't know who that is, check out the first episode of Drawing Comics. I created a 5-minute reel talking about John Buscema, who he is. I gave you some sneak peeks of his work that isn't so mainstream. They're sketches, beautiful sketches as well. And I just talk about his progress until he becomes a Marvel artist, and just his life in general as an artist. But yeah, it's a quick, short minute reel, 5-minute reel. And yeah, it's the first episode of Drawing Comics. So as I mentioned from the previous stream, I am going to jump into inking some of these panels. I was planning to fix up this bush area. Where is it? That turned out to be a huge disappointment. But I'm going to see if I could fix that right now. And something tells me it's not going to look as great as it should. This is just another example of his masterful work. Skillful work. Not masterful, I don't like that word. I think it's a square slash word and has no place. Find it to be a nonsensical, toxic word. But yeah, there's a lot of skill here because, again, it's not super detailed. He's not drawing every single leaf, every single bushel. It's just suggestive lines. It was very well done. Playing into this the skill of his of being able to depict things realistically, yet maintaining a comic book feel. It's not great. You know, I see there's a lot of mistakes here that I made. But it definitely looks better than just green blobs. A little embellishment there, since I did make some mistakes that make it look kind of bad. All right, that's enough of that. I'm gonna say that looks much better than it did before. Just gonna make sure I didn't miss anything else, and I did. Couple of thin lines here. I'm not going to miss an opportunity to practice creating thin lines with this brush pen. Wielding more and more control over it. Gonna get real bold over here and freehand this box. This text box. Got a little sloppy there. All right, moving on. Let's see which one we're going to next. This panel right here. I'm going to start with the background and move slowly towards the foreground. I'm pretty nervous about doing this background character because, first of all, I like how he turned out, but also the lines are so thin. I'm trying to concentrate as much as I can on this because I really don't want to create the wrong lines on this. But I will take this opportunity to say that tomorrow is going to be a new intro. I'm going to be going back to the project stream, which is going to be again at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I have this exciting new intro that I'm going to share with you guys. So make sure you tune in then to see what it is. And for those of you who missed yesterday's stream, it just happened to come up. You know, I think it might have been the soundtrack or like the music that was playing in the background that really reminded me of it. But I showed you guys the trailer for a movie that's already been released, but just to give you guys an idea of what the movie was about. It was called Perfume. Story of a Murderer. And this is a really cool movie, taking place in the 1800s, and that's Dustin Hoffman there playing a professional perfume maker, and how he teaches this young man who ends up making some grave mistakes, literally, But the way the movie is made, it's excellent. So if you guys missed that, highly encourage you to just flip through that episode to find it, or look it up on YouTube. It's called Perfume: Story of a Murder. But the cinematography is great, and how the story unravels. The soundtrack, that's what it was. It was the soundtrack I was listening to, and it just it reminded me of that movie. And I plan to revisit it, just to experience again the artistry in it all. The costume design is excellent. Like, they really spent time trying to make it look as if though people wore their clothes thoroughly. You know, back then, hygiene was more of like an upper class thing, and even an upper class would cover up their hygiene with like perfume, and they would use powder to do that as well. So rather than bathing, people would just completely cover themselves up with powder. And I think that became like a trend, rather. And that's why you have like those old 1800s paintings where the people's faces are incredibly white. And it became like also a sign, I think, of class as well. And I'm sure other terrible political affiliations as well. But yeah, like the costume design was excellent. They really did spend a lot of time making it look worn, depending on like the class, you know, if like they were showing scenes of people who were just living in poor neighborhoods or whatever, the clothes look really tatered and like worn through. And even the rich just had some of it worn in as well. Because I think it sometimes kind of takes you out of the story when you look at somebody and they're wearing like this crisp, brand new costume or clothing or whatever it is. You know, it's just like you just put it on for the scene, and that's pretty much it. So I'm trying to speed through this kind of for two reasons: to improve my inking skills, but to also oh boy, it's getting closer to his face, and to also move on and actually do some coloring. Like, I want to pick up these color pencils again and do a new panel. But I'm also a little hesitant to like do it quickly because this panel turned out alright. Another thing I actually wanted to note, and I noticed recently, is talking about the motivation factor. Like, my motivation, I want to say it's not even a topic anymore. And a lot of it is attributed to that concept that I was mentioning earlier, which is not even having that conversation with myself, not even questioning, do you feel motivated right now to sit down and do something? I just sit down and do it. And at this point, it's not even, it's so automatic when I want to, when it comes to just sitting down and drawing. Of course, the process itself isn't, but just that stage right before it, that's something that I used to battle. I used to be like, oh. But once I started, not even giving it a second thought and just sitting down and drawing, I feel incomplete if I don't. And my day is ruined, in a sense. And I believe the same would happen to pretty much anybody. So if you guys are lacking motivation, my advice to you is don't even have that conversation with yourself. Don't even question that. Don't even ask, like, do I feel motivated? Just do it. And then once you do, once you sit down and start drawing, you're going to thank yourself. 100% guarantee you that. The motivation is in the process. Once you get involved, it just kicks in. And of course, reading comics. And for me, like, every time I sit down to draw, I'm like, man, there is so much to learn. How could I afford not to draw every day? And not in like this agonizing, like, oh no, there's like so much. Like, I'm genuinely excited to level up. It's like learning a new language or playing an instrument. You don't get worse. You just get better. By just doing it continuously. And some people ask, like, well, where do you get your motivation from? Or I talk to other people who are learning, and they're like, yeah, you know, I just don't feel that spark. And it's like, that's the mistake you're making, is that you're waiting for that. And that's what's preventing you from leveling up. I call it the bratty side of our conscious. Side that doesn't want to do things, you know, like that side that was always present when you were a kid, right? When somebody was telling you, like, go and do this, and you're like, no, I don't want to do it. And you throw temper tantrums, and you would cry and stomp your feet because you just didn't want to do something. Even though, I'm going to say 8 out of 10 times, it's something that really is necessary for you to do. And that just never relieves people. Some people, rather, I'm not going to say all people, some people, just never leaves that side where it creates excuses or tells you to do something else or not do what you were supposed to. It's that capricious side of us that we've had since we were kids, that some people never learn to tame or never really fix, rather. And they just listen to that part of themselves more often than they do the side that knows what's best. It's like, I should really read a book, but there's a social media thing that you should check out. Just spend 10 more minutes on it. Or like the one that's like, oh, I should really get up right now. It's like, oh, 10 more minutes in bed. That side. It's the same voice. The capricious voice. So once you start avoiding it, once you learn to just ignore it and label it that exactly, knowing that, then you start to really benefit yourself. You start really doing the things that you know you should be doing. So the less often you listen to it, the better. And you train yourself not to listen to that side of yourself. It's a habit, you know, like as I mentioned, if you've been doing it since you were a kid, you know, you've been huffing and puffing and stomping your feet every time there's something that is challenging to do, isn't as comfortable, is a little bit intimidating. Then it's going to be harder to work it out of your system. Not impossible. But as my previous streams had it with Shia LaBeouf, where he just says, just do it. It's absolutely right. Just do it. That's where your motivation is. Just do it. Don't argue with yourself. Don't try to come up with good conditions, scenarios, agreements, whatever. Just do it. And in fact, the more I sit down to do these things, the more I do it, the more I hate that other voice. You know, that other part that says like, oh, well, why not just do this? Because I recognize it. I'm like, oh, I know this. This is the conversation that gets you nothing. That wastes your own precious time. So I challenge you, viewers, to battle that voice and work against it as much as possible with yourself. whether it's reading every day, exercising every day, drawing every day. I challenge you to test it. Test your ability to work against that voice. I believe that's where real strength is. You know, people attribute strength to all sorts of things. But when it comes down to that, turns out the opposite for a lot of people. And it's all trainable. So I guess today's highlight would be talking about motivation. And to be honest, I often think, I guess besides reading comics and besides this idea of just doing it, I also often think about the idea that John Buscema was pumping out 2 issues of this quality work per month. So 60 pages, if not more, per month. And that's absolutely amazing. And I love that idea. I love that. He dedicated himself so much to drawing that he got to a point where 60 pages of this quality was just no problem. I just wish there was more. It seems like Stan Lee and him had somewhat of a close relationship. I wish there was more footage of Stan Lee talking about John Buscema. About his drawing and that sort of thing. Just find that to be such a bummer that he didn't. I do start having like a different relationship with the pen brush, the paper, once I start drawing lightly and keeping a distance from the tip. I notice from time to time my hand does slip further down, but just becoming really sensitive to that position, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's very relieving. There's something very like cathartic about it. And I really enjoy it. It's like this new zone of sensitivity. Where even pressing so lightly, you could start to feel the paper with that tiny little bit of the brush touching the paper. It's trippy. I like it. I want to say it's like entering into a zone. And that's one of the reasons why I was like debating, like, should I make each stream 2 hours, like 2 hours of, let's say, coloring comics, and then the next day do 2 hours of drawing basics, rather than splitting things up, because taking a break and like switching things up and all that kind of breaks me out of that zone, or I never really get into it. I don't get into that zone. It's just right on the cusp of it, and then I have to pause and stop the stream. For those of you who draw a really long time, you might know what I'm talking about. I'm getting messy here. And these are not good lines. Also, something I noticed with these watercolor pages is that the colors actually ended up blending more. So for example, like all this yellow doesn't look as splotchy as it did right after I colored it. After it dries, I guess it really blends more together. Good news is I will be working with... Ooh, now I'm gonna get into the face of this cult member. Yeah, good news is that I'm gonna be working with India Ink colors very soon. I'm gonna say before this month is over. So that's something for you guys to look forward to in the future. I'm very unhappy with how her cap turned out. I'll be honest. It's not looking good. I could have done way better there. But it also has to do with, and this is why I bring up India inks right now, it's because this brush pen is drying out. So I think that I'm actually touching the paper, and it is touching it, but I'm touching it with a dried tip. So I have to press even harder, and then that ends up making a thicker line that I like. So I do have to order a new Black India ink. Part of me has been hesitant because I did write to the company to ask if there are any animal products in this, because from what I read, India ink has like beetle parts in it, and I don't like that. I don't like the idea that I'm like basically painting with somebody's body parts. That's gross. That's really disgusting. Like, especially now that there's so many alternatives and there's so many different ways that we can create pigment. And they're using this like really archaic and barbaric way of creating inks. Like, come on. Catch up with the times, guys. Really. Using any animal parts to me is just, it's gross. But I'm not gonna get into that. I might in the future, but not right now. Because I do get frustrated with that topic. It's just really disgusting how that even comes about, what people do in order to gain that. It's sick. Like the rippling effects of that industry and just kind of people it creates just for entertainment. You know, it's not about survival, that's for sure. It's entertainment. It's insane. Well, anyways, y'all, unfortunately I didn't get to color a new panel. I might get just started on this just for the moment while I exit the stream. Yeah, I wanted to actually just color today, but I'm gonna say that inking is coloring. It's just you're doing with black ink, you know, black color. Yeah, it's happening again. Like, I'm noticing that I am actually touching it with the very thin part of the brush. And until I press harder, it's just not gonna appear because it's dried. Oh, look at that. That is so clumpy. It's almost paste-like. Alright, let me see if I could test the waters here. If that really fixed anything. Before I go into really fine detail. Alright, y'all, this is gonna be it. There's still some work there. I'm not gonna rush through it. I will be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for more Art Lounge Alley. I will be doing drawing basics at 8 and my project stream at 9 p.m., which is gonna have a new intro. And there's gonna be something new tomorrow. So make sure you check back in to see what it is. And as always, if you guys enjoy the content, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. They both will help the stream grow and reach out to more audience who eventually will hopefully start submitting work, so we can get the community growing and have you guys see more interesting content. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you tomorrow.